For those of you that didn't hear about this, a high school, I don't know if I should call him a high school broadcaster, but a broadcaster who was calling a girls' basketball game in Oklahoma. His name is Matt Rowan. It's out there. He's an adult. His name is Matt Rowan. And he's calling a game between Midwest City and Norman High. And, you know, they're talking about the upcoming game. And then they stand for the national anthem. And the Norman High School girls, they knelt during the anthem. And Matt Rowan, who was, again, one of the two broadcasters, he thinks his mic is off. So he's comfortable.
Here it is, another hot mic, right.
Yep. So he's saying his stuff, and he's upset. He didn't even, to be honest, Rob, he didn't even sound upset. He was just talking about
and very comfortable,
how dare they not standing for the anthem. Are you serious? I hope they get their butts kicked, blah, blah, blah. I'm cleaning it up. And then he goes, effing N-words.
Yes.
And of course, everything has hit the fan now. And Rob, so he went ahead and called the game from what I believe. Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but he called the game. So I just want to read 2 paragraphs of his apology, Rob. Okay, a press release,
which was probably the worst apology I've ever read.
Man,
I read the whole thing, but go ahead, Chris. It's only worth reading the first 2 paragraphs.
These are 2 of the 4. Yeah, there's plenty of paragraphs, but here's 2 of them. I am a family man. I am married, have 2 children, and at one time was a youth pastor. I continue to be a member of a Baptist church. I have not only embarrassed and disappointed myself, I have embarrassed and disappointed my family and my friends. I will state that I suffer type 1 diabetes, and during the game, my sugar was spiking. While not excusing my remarks, it is not unusual when my sugar spikes that I become disoriented and often say things that are not appropriate as well as hurtful. I do not believe that I would have made such horrible statements absent my sugar spiking.
Can I do this for you? Stop it! You're blaming your diabetes for your racist slurs? For you to say that it was because of your low blood sugar, Chris, that came out of your mouth? People get low blood sugar. It's a real thing. And you know what they do? They have a piece of chocolate, Chris, because they're not feeling right? To get it back balanced.
Peppermint or something. Yep.
Yes. We get it. Don't use that as your excuse that you call these young women, young girls, the N-word. What? They deserve that? It's their right to kneel down if they want. Why are you so offended? Did they call you out of your name? Chris, what did they do to him? What did they do?
They did nothing but be black. That's what they did. This dude's a racist.
That's what they did.
This dude's a racist. And he said in his little comment, he said, I've never considered myself to be racist. So what?
Thank you.
So what? You know what? A lot of the slave owners didn't consider themselves to be racist either. And I'm not just spouting that. That's historical fact. If you look at every point in American history, slavery, Jim Crow, the civil rights movement, up to today, there have always been a lot of whites who have said, what's the problem? Well, there's no problem. We're not racist. We just enslaved black people. We're not racist. We just, don't make them sit on the back of the bus. We're not racist. We just lynch them. I mean, come on, man. Come on. And to throw in the church, Rob, racism just upsets me to the nth degree.
And what makes it even worse
in America, the history in America, is that a lot of it's been tied to Christianity.
Yes.
You are sullying the name of Christ and Christianity when you attach your wicked racism to it. Just own up to what you are.
Right. It has nothing to do. Chris, he had to mention he's a youth pastor and he's married and he has kids. What does any of that have to do with what you did? You got caught on a hot mic. You were doing, Chris, feeling natural because this is how you talk.
Yep.
And that could never come out of your mouth if you don't use those words. It's just like the Miami Heat player, Chris, who said he didn't know what he was saying. You don't know. What word were you using? You were using a word you said you don't know what it means? What?
And Rob, I'm glad you brought up that Myers Leonard, because remember, there was another situation. John Fock, and he was I think I said his name right, Focke. He was a broadcaster for the Charlotte Hornets. And he was tweeting something about a Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets. Now, Nuggets is important. Right. Denver Nuggets game. He was tweeting something, and instead of Nuggets, he tweeted the N-word. Now, I was talking with my wife about this, and this happened in August. So, 9 months ago, whatever.
Right.
And we were talking about it, and you know what happened almost assuredly is that he, despite his denials that he's never used that word, he doesn't know what happened, right? That he probably texts with a lot of people using that word, the N-word. And so it auto-corrected or something. That's what we think happened. That he was typing in N-U-G, and it auto-corrected to the N-word, and he didn't check it. And it ended up he ended up getting fired after a 2-week investigation. But
I bet you they went through his Twitter. I bet you, or something else.
I don't think he had a lot of tweets they said
not Twitter,
with that.
Not Twitter,
but yeah, probably his texts and stuff, I would think. But like I said, if indeed that's that theory is correct. But my point is this, right? Look, I'm 52 years old. And so people our age, Rob, and a little younger are essentially the ones in charge, right?
Right.
I grew up, I heard white people use the N-word. White people using the N-word. Like, some didn't know I was black. I've heard it. Some knew I was black and said it in a funny way.
I've never heard it. I've never heard
really?
It like that.
Yeah.
So in that light, like somebody just saying, "Hey, you N-word, get out of here," or something never like that.
Yeah, I haven't been called it.
Do you know what I'm saying?
To my face like that? Yeah, but I've heard whites using it that I knew, that, went to school with, using it. My father, who's my complexion, he got in some fights in the Army. He'd be around some white guys, and they didn't know he was black. And they using it, and he getting fights in the Army because of that. But so my point is this, Rob. People act like it's such ancient history. My point is, people who are running things right now, they're our age. And I know growing up, they were using the N-word.
Right.
Some of them. I'm not trying to paint all white people like this. But a lot of them, those people are in good positions of power in different businesses and corporations and things like that. So obviously, Rob, these guys, here's the thing. Even if you are a racist like that, how can you be so stupid with all that has gone on recently? You shouldn't be using the word anyway, obviously.
But I agree with you, Chris. I agree.
Even if that's who you are, how can you be so stupid to use it publicly, even if you don't think you're on the mic? Like, maybe the dude he was broadcasting the game with, maybe that dude would have been like, "Yo, what are you talking about, man? How dare
I'll
you
tell
say
you
that?"
right now, if you were working with a guy doing a game and you heard that, you would accept that? No, you wouldn't. No. And if you were somebody else, even if it didn't have, you don't have to be black to be offended.
Right.
To hear somebody utter that in public, like about some young teenage girls. And here's the other thing. I can't get over how many of these guys harbor these feelings, yet they want to make money off of calling basketball games and being around black people. Do you know what I mean, Chris?
No, that's a great point.
They despise black people that much, but they don't have a problem doing the game and getting paid? Why would you even come? Why would you even be a part of it if you got issues?
I think, in this, again, I'm not painting all whites like this, but that's American history. whites have liked being entertained by African Americans. That's the history. That's why, Rob, you know this as well as I do. A lot of decades ago, a lot of blacks felt like black people should not perform in sports or even music for whites, right? So don't play sports. Muhammad Ali was in the Nation of Islam. They taught that you should not play sports and entertain white people. And obviously he didn't do that, but that was always there was a little tension there early on because they're like, look, we don't believe in entertaining white folks when they're oppressing us like this.
And then they embraced it because he did shine a light.
He became, exactly.
Am I right?
He made them a lot bigger. Yeah, he brought publicity to them. But, you can go back in slavery and see that they would set up wrestling matches and boxing matches between slaves, black slaves, and they would bet on it and watch it, and it was a big to-do. And, so that's why, sometimes African Americans, and it's not a perfect analogy by any stretch, it's a stretch. But that's why you've heard, Rob, some apply slavery or compare it to current things, right?
You know what?
Bill Rhoden wrote $40 Million Slaves.
Right.
Because, again, in slavery, blacks were entertaining whites, and they would get little trinkets or whatever for winning or stuff like that. And I think the end of the day, Rob, I think this supports what I've said on this show before, that if blacks, I think some of these racist whites who you ask why do they cover basketball and all that,
right? They
tolerate blacks and may even be fond of blacks to a certain degree because they're great athletes or whatever, but imagine if we weren't such great athletes.
Right.
I've always said if we weren't great athletes, I don't think race relations would even have come as far as they have in this country because most white men and most men in America, period, like sports.
Right.
So you grow up seeing these great dominant black athletes that you really like and look up to, right? You buy their
jersey and you have their poster on your wall and you idolize some of them because they're just so great. But
it doesn't change the way you feel about the average black person who can't run a 4.40. Lead the Lap, our producer's 32 years old, white guy. Right. And he told me growing up in Southern California, he does not hear, he didn't grow up hearing that word, like among whites and stuff like, other than in rap music and stuff like that. Wow. He didn't grow up hearing it. So that's good. And I told him that's great. That's good. No doubt. So, all right, your turn to weigh in. Let's get to it.
Yes, let's get as many people. Make your point. Let's do it. Sam in Indiana, you're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Sam?
Tim in Indiana.
Tim.
Sorry about that.
I listen to your guys' show a lot. Love the show. The conversations you guys had need to be more about topics like this. I'm 51 years old, and I was in the Marine Corps, and it was just commonplace for a lot of white people to use it in there.
Wow.
And since I've been out of there, I would call them out on it, and I lost many friends, especially in the service. So then what tended to happen is most of my friends were either Hispanic or black or some other nationality just because a lot of white people do not like to be called out on using that word.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
Unbelievable, Sam.
Well, thank you for standing up, and that takes guts, and that's a great call.
Yep, you're being honest. We lost him.
That was a
Sean.
good call, Rob.
Yep. Sean in Texas, you're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Sean?
Hey, guys. John in Central Texas. How you doing, guys? Good. Thank you for having this conversation.
You're welcome.
So, real quick bit of background. I grew up across the river from one of the major enclaves of the KKK in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, certainly, the word was used in my house. I'm not going to lie and say as a young person I didn't use it myself.
We want you to be honest. Thank you. Thanks for telling us.
But, it was interesting that it wasn't with hatred or malice, but it was always when I grew up the sense that they are not us, that kind of mentality, if you know what I mean. So I worked nearly 20 years for a major tech corporation. I've heard it used one time in the work context. It was myself with a female coworker and an African-American colleague, and she used it to in talking about something she had heard someone else say, and she actually used the word rather than a euphemism.
Right.
That bothered me. I reported it to my boss. There was a conversation between her and my boss, and her boss and the other young man, we all agreed that, you know what, let's say this is not right. We're not going to report and ruin someone's career, but, let's make it very clear that's not acceptable. And it was handled that way.
And she probably won't do it again.
She probably will never do it.
I don't think so.
Right.
No.
Right.
Another good call.
Good call. Thank you.
Connor in Colorado, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Connor?
What's up, fellas? Love the show. Appreciate having me on.
Yes,
I'm a 27, white guy here in Colorado, and where I live is predominantly white. And I would say you hear this word a shocking amount amongst people 30 and younger, just in a chill context. Yeah, they'll just use it loosely.
Are they using it in a hip hop way? You know what I mean? Not that excuse it, but you know what I mean? Like
or
that, is it more racial?
Hateful.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's not in a hateful way, but it's not also like rapping along to a song either. They're sitting around the couch calling each other it in like a friendly way, but it's still,
whites,
I mean, the way I was brought up, I was told that is not.
Whites calling white each other that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just this last summer on an outdoor court, I was getting some shots up, and this older guy, probably in his late 50s, was hearing the music I was playing, and he's like, so when you listen to that, do you rap that word? And I'm like, no, I don't say that word. And he tried to convince me that that's racism. And
to not
I was
say
like,
the word?
Wow. Not to say the word, to let black people have that power over us. And I couldn't even handle it. Like, I was so mad at this dude for probably like a whole week.
Right.
Wow.
Man, thank you. Thanks for the call, Connor.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Good calls.
Let's squeeze
thanks,
in.
guys, for being honest. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being it. Yes, we appreciate it.
Because I think
Greg,
one of the problems with one of the deterrents to us overcoming racism is people don't really talk honestly.
No.
In mixed company. You know what I'm saying? Especially publicly.
Like we just had a guy who said it was used in his house. Right.
It
was. Let's just call it like it is.
So
we want to squeeze in one more guy. I'm interested. Greg in Alabama, Chris. He's on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Greg?
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for taking my call, man.
Yes, sir.
And I grew up in a neighborhood where there was two white families. And the first time I heard the N-word, I started school. And I went home and asked my mama. I said the word, and my mama slapped the you-know-what out of me.
Right.
We don't use that word.
And you're white? You're white?
I'm white, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
But people are so judgmental. If everybody would just approach that person and talk to them with respect, instead of judging them, you don't know how many times I've been in a carload of white people, and a black guy goes by in a nice BMW or Mercedes or whatever, and you hear, look at that, you know what, out selling drugs.
Wow.
Man, what the hell?
Right.
You know,
right.
Of course, I don't tolerate it. I don't get on like that, man. I do see color. Somebody says they don't see color, they tell you a lie.
No, we see color. That's a lie. That's a lie, Greg.
Yes,
we're with
that's
you.
a part of who God made.
Somebody's black. Somebody's
yellow,
Hispanic.
red,
we
brown,
know that.
right.
Yes. Come on. Let's not act like. Right.
But you know what I don't like to hear, and maybe I might offend you when I say this, and I hope I don't. But I don't like the term African American. You are an American. I'm an American. Your color is just different than mine.
Right.
Why do we have to be African Americans or white Americans? We're Americans, man. We're male and we're female.
I hear you, Greg. You're not the only.
I hear you.
I've heard that from other people.
Yeah. I've heard that. You know, Rob, when you go overseas, I mean, obviously you're still black, but you know, you when you go out of this country, you kind of think of yourselves more as just an American. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's the long history of this country with race. Good calls, though, guys. We appreciate you guys being honest and sharing your true feelings and your true experiences. That's like I said, Rob, that's a part of, as long as we just keep talking in cliches and saying what's politically correct around each other. Right. We just fooling ourselves and doing something we think needs to be done.
And I'll say
to get to the roots, you got to be honest.
I'll say this, without having listened to most shows on the radio today, I could almost bet you that most shows wouldn't even touch this, wouldn't even have that conversation. That's what you're going to get here. Chris and I are not going to shy away from things that matter. And I'm glad you responded the way. Some people might have turned the radio off. They don't want to hear it. That's fine.
Or some guys might have lied and not been honest. You know what I mean?